Welcome to another episode of Investors Guide. What a week we've had. Higher interest rates and a choppy market, and we've rolled all of that into the show to help you get richer by planning your portfolios better. So speaking of that, you can write to us. There's an email ID at the bottom of your screen. Send in your questions so we can answer your questions on this show. Let's get straight to it. This is what we're going to do in the next half hour. We're going to look at specific requirements of a 30-year-old when he's planning to extend his family. We'll tell him how he can tweak his investments to suit his needs. We'll also review the HDFC Infrastructure Fund. And finally, India now has a second credit bureau. Find out how it changes your life as a borrower. That's coming up later on the show. But first, let me introduce Dhirendra Kumar, the CEO of Value Research and our in-house mutual fund expert who joins us on the show every week. Dhirendra, thanks so much for joining us on the show. Let's get straight to our portfolio versus portfolio segment. Shastri has written in from Bangalore. He writes in saying he's 30 years old and he wants us to look at his financial plan. Now, he currently pays off a home loan for about 25,000 rupees every month, and he pays a premium of 72,000 rupees on his LIC policy every year. Now, he tells us his health insurance for him and his family are covered by his company. And apart from that, he has an SIP of 20,000 rupees, which he split into two portfolios, our aggressive portfolio and our growth portfolio. Now, he tells us he doesn't have any children yet, but he would want to know how he should upgrade this portfolio when he plans to expand his family, which is going to happen soon. He tells us he has a long-term horizon. So you have a list of the funds that he's invested in, largely our aggressive and our growth portfolio, except for a couple of small changes here and there. What sort of changes do you think he should make if he's planning on extending his family?
No, I think this portfolio. I don't know what exactly differentiates his, how he is differentiated and why he is differentiating his aggressive growth portfolio and the growth portfolio. But assuming that aggressive growth portfolio is his retirement portfolio and the growth portfolio, he is likely to drop on this on this accumulation in next 10-15 years. I don't see much of a difference, but that is still fine given the time frame. I think the only thing he should be worried about, or he should look at it carefully, is he is adequately covered, and Jeevan Anand may not be the finest way of getting his life insurance and getting adequate coverage through a term cover, and that is something which he should be very aware of and conscious of.
Let's say 72,000 rupees a year going into his Jeevan Anand policy. So if he were to take a term cover instead, he would save a large chunk of that money. Would you advise that he puts that into his portfolios as well?
Yes, absolutely. As even at the cost of repeating it, combining insurance and investment doesn't make sense. And as he has a fine portfolio going along, and he, of course, his allocation to investment is far higher than 6,000 rupee monthly. If we look at the average, 6,000 rupee monthly allocation to that ULIP or the Jeevan Anand, I would say that he should certainly look at if he's adequately covered for his insurance through a term cover, then he won't require that, and that 6,000 can well go into his investment plans directly.
The other question is, of course, health insurance. If he's looking at expanding his family, that health insurance is going to come in handy. He currently tells us he has a medical cover of about 5 lakh rupees and he doesn't have any personal medical insurance which he's bought on his own. Do you think that's something that he's going to have to tackle? Is 5 lakh rupees from an employer enough?
Should be, and also he's accumulating. So other thing besides this will be an emergency fund which I think he will have it handy. Even the money in transit could be a handy emergency fund. So you just have to take a modest. You just have to be reasonably prepared for which I think a 5 lakh cover should be adequate.
Alright, 5 lakh cover would be adequate. Shastri, you have to remember what Dhirendra said. Remember, you have two portfolios, our aggressive and our growth portfolio. That's the one you're using. Remember to keep the aggressive portfolio for a longer term, so keep that possibly for your retirement. And if you have to dip in, consider the growth portfolio something that you will dip in. Right now, it seems like your portfolio is on track. Remember, you can write back to us if you have any more questions about your investment or the advice that you just heard on this show. Let's move on now to our hold or sell segment. Kavita has written in asking our advice on which of these funds she should hold or sell. She sent us a list of the funds that she's investing in. The first one on her list is the HDFC Top 200 fund. She tells us she started 6 months ago, 2,000 rupees a month going into this fund. Continue investing?
Yes, continue investing. It's a reasonably good fund.
The Reliance Tax Savers, the next fund on the list. Again, 2,000 rupees in this investment been going in for the last 6 months. Should she continue investing in this one as well?
No, it's a fairly average tax saver fund. It is not among the best performing, or and today it has a reasonable track record, and there is nothing impressive visible here. So I would say, and also one has to be a little more careful about the tax savers, because once you invest, you can't do anything about it for next 3 years. You, even if it does poorly, you just have to keep watching it. And in case of SIP, though SIP is a good way of getting into equity and for tax saving as well, but you will have your extended, the lock-in period will apply for each installment. So if you have been doing SIP, you will have to wait for each corresponding installment to units bought in each installment every month for it to get out of the lock-in period. So I think it gets complicated. Just be careful about your tax saving fund when choosing.
Right, the Birla Sun Life Tax Relief Fund is the next one on her list. Again, she's investing in this fund for the last 6 months. Should she continue putting money in that fund, Ray?
This again is not among the finest, but it's once again an average fund. So well can consider discontinuing this as well.
The Reliance MIP is the next one on his list. She's put 50,000 rupees into this, and she tells us it's going to mature in December of this year. Now, it doesn't seem to be too much of a plan here. She's investing in tax savers, she's investing in MIP and in equity diversified. Is this something that she should be hanging on to?
No, first and foremost, I would like to clarify that mutual funds don't come with a term. They are not term deposit. You can well take your money out anytime you want to. The other, of course, there is no clear plan visible here, and I would say that first the way to approach it will be the amount of tax saving investment you need to do in a financial year. That should certainly choose a good fund, invest in 1 or 2 funds. That should be enough.
That's right. And the last one on her list is the SBI Tax Magnum Growth Fund, or the SBI Tax Saver. That's the one on her list. She's been investing in it for a year. She tells us she's not happy with the performance of that fund. She wants to know what she should do. She's still within that 3-year lock-in period. What she should do with that last investment?
Yes, it is disappointing, and it has been a very disappointing fund of late. You don't have much of a choice but to wait for the fund to get out of the lock-in period and surely exit then. Till that point, you can do nothing but watch the performance.
Right. So if she stops her investments right now, and all of these 3 tax savers which you've said are mediocre tax saver, she should remember that the MIP that she's invested in doesn't have a lock-in of 1 year, which means that she can take that money out when she needs to. Is there a fund that you can recommend to her? Maybe one tax saver, because that's obviously what she's looking for. Something that she should be putting her money in.
Yeah, I would say that HDFC tax saver looks impressive even now, and has been through all kind of cyclicality. That looks impressive. Besides that, there are 2-3 other funds. Fidelity Tax Saving Fund is another impressive choice to have. And with tax saving fund, I would rather go for a more consistent fund than a high performance fund in a brief period of time, because that high performance may not materialize in your holding period, and you will not be able to do much about it even if it does poorly.
Alright, Kavita, that's the advice going out to you. Remember, your 3 tax saver funds are not exactly the best funds on the block, which means you can't pull your money out right now. You're locked in. You're just going to have to stop your SIPs, and the money that you've already invested, you'll have to give it 3 years from the last SIP that you put in before you can take that money out. But in the meantime, they're giving you a few funds that you can invest in that were possibly going to give you better returns and more stable returns than the ones you have right now. Now, Dhirendra's going to stay with us, and you should too. We're going to talk about the HDFC Infrastructure Fund on the other side of this break, so don't go anywhere.